I should have been used to being invisible. After my husband, James, passed away 15 years ago, my world shrank until it was just me and the needs of my children. But somehow, after all that time, it still found new ways to hurt. I was standing at the counter, carefully carving a roast chicken that nobody had asked for. It was Sunday. I always made a roast on Sunday. In the living room, my son, Michael, was pacing back and forth, his voice booming through the house as if I were just another piece of furniture. He was on the phone with his wife, Olivia. "Babe, the slopes in Aspen are going to be perfect this year," he said, full of that vibrant energy he never ever used with me. "I found a chalet, 5-star, ski in, ski out. It's only $1,000 a night. We deserve it. $1,000 a night." I paused, the carving knife still in my hand. He'd said it so casually. It had been 4 months since he'd forgotten to pay me back the $500 I'd loaned him for new tires. I set the knife down. I wiped my hands on my favorite apron, the one with a faded sunflower print and a small grease stain that was now part of its character. I walked into the living room, my heart doing a funny little flutter. Michael didn't even glance up. He was laughing now, telling Olivia about the private hot tub on the deck. "Yeah, this time we're definitely doing it right." I touched his arm ever so gently. He flinched and shot me a look of pure annoyance, like a surgeon interrupted mid-operation. He held up a single finger to silence me, a gesture you'd give to a barking dog, before turning away and whispering into the phone, "Hold on, babe. My mom wants something." I backed away without a word. I went back to the kitchen, my face burning with a familiar, quiet shame. I wrapped the chicken in foil and put the whole platter in the refrigerator. I knew no one would eat it. Michael and Olivia would go out for sushi. But I did it anyway, because that's what I did. I cooked, I cleaned. I existed in the margins of their lives. 2 days later, my daughter, Emily, blew in like a hurricane. She didn't knock. The front door just flew open, and my 2 grandsons, Noah and Liam, ran past me and straight to the TV, which they immediately blasted at full volume. Emily followed them in, her eyes glued to her phone. "Hey, Mom," she said, not even looking at me. "I need you to watch the boys. My yoga instructor is doing a surprise pop-up class, and it's like a full-body spiritual reset. I have to go. It wasn't a question. It was a decree." "Honey, I have that checkup with the cardiologist this afternoon," I said softly. It was an appointment I'd been putting off for months, because every single time I scheduled it, an emergency like this one came up. Emily was already halfway out the door. She blew a kiss over her shoulder without turning around. "Oh, you can reschedule that. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime class. I'll leave you some cash for pizza." She yelled from the driveway. She left nothing. I spent the afternoon watching superhero cartoons and making grilled cheese sandwiches that Noah and Liam picked at, complaining that it wasn't pizza. I called the cardiologist's office. The receptionist's sigh was so heavy I could feel it through the phone. "I'm sorry," I mumbled for the 10th time that day. "I'm so sorry." Emily returned at 9 p.m., smelling of lavender and eucalyptus, carrying a shopping bag from a boutique where a single scarf cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The boys were asleep on the couch. She woke them up brusquely, without a word of thanks, without asking about my day. "Gotta go, Mom. Early start tomorrow," she said, hustling the sleepy kids out the door. I closed it behind her and leaned against the wood. The house felt huge and empty. It smelled of years of not mattering, of decades of being the reliable, invisible force that kept everyone else's world spinning. I couldn't sleep that night. I just sat on my bed in the dark, trying to remember the last time one of my kids had asked me how I was. I mean, really asked, looked me in the eye, put their phone down, and waited for an honest answer. I couldn't remember. It was a memory lost in a sea of their needs. The next morning, Michael showed up again. This time, Olivia was with him. Her smile was bright, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile people wear when they're about to ask for a kidney. "We need to talk, Mom," Michael said, and his tone was so serious it sent a shiver down my spine. We sat at the old oak kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped him with his homework, where I'd celebrated every birthday, where I'd served 10,000 silent meals. "Mom," Michael began, leaning forward, "Olivia has an incredible business idea. A high-end lifestyle branding company. She's got the vision, the contacts. She's going to be huge. Olivia nodded, her smile tightening. It's all about curating authentic digital presences for luxury brands, Susan. The market is exploding. I had no idea what that meant. That sounds nice, dear. It's more than nice, Mom. It's a gold mine, Michael said. But we need some help with the startup capital. The banks want a co-signer on the business loan, a big one, for $500,000. The room tilted. $500,000. They wanted me to put my house, my only real asset, the home James and I had built together, on the line for a business I didn't even understand. Michael. I can't, I stammered. If the business fails, I'd lose everything. I'd lose the house. He and Olivia exchanged a look. It was a quick, sharp glance I wasn't supposed to see. Mom, it's not going to fail, Michael insisted, his voice rising. This is an investment in your family. We'd make you a partner. You'd get a cut. A cut of what? A cut of a business that might not exist in a year? A cut of nothing? I just shook my head, feeling something inside me, something old and weary, finally begin to crack. But it wasn't just sadness this time. It was a cold, hard clarity. No, Michael. I'm sorry. I can't do it. He shot up from his chair so fast it scraped the floor with a screech that made me jump. It's always the same with you, Mom. You have no faith. You never support our dreams. Olivia took his arm, her plastic smile back in place. It's okay, honey. We'll find another way. They stormed out. The front door slammed with a deafening thud that seemed to shake the entire house. I just sat there, in that kitchen that no longer felt like mine, staring at my cold cup of coffee. And that's when I knew. It wasn't a thought, not a plan. It was a deep, bone-rattling certainty that shot through me like a bolt of lightning. I could not go on like this. I did not want to. 3 weeks later, I got the call that changed my world. It was a Tuesday morning. I was dusting the living room furniture, the same furniture I'd been dusting for 30 years, when my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something, some flicker of a new instinct made me answer. Ms. Susan Miller? A professional voice asked. Yes? This is David Carter from head office. From the firm. We need you to come down to the main office in the city tomorrow at 10. It's important. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'd been an architect at the same firm for 28 years, quietly working in a small satellite office at the same drafting table, designing additions and renovations. I was 69 years old. I was sure they were going to encourage me into early retirement, replace me with someone younger, cheaper. I arrived at the main office with clammy hands. It was one of those gleaming downtown skyscrapers with marble floors and security guards who looked like they were in the Secret Service. Mr. Carter greeted me with a warm, genuine smile. Susan, thank you for coming. Please have a seat. We sat in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the entire city. Susan, he began, we'd like to offer you a promotion. I must have looked completely blank. We're opening a new major branch in Chicago, he continued. We need a director of design to lead the team. Someone with impeccable experience, a flawless record, and a steady hand. We reviewed every senior architect's portfolio in the company. Yours stood out. The words floated around me, not quite landing. Director? Chicago? Me? The position comes with a 70% pay increase, he added, and a full corporate relocation package, including a housing allowance. I was silent for a full minute. All I could manage to say was, me? Yes, you, Susan, Mr. Carter said with a laugh. Frankly, you've been overlooked for years. It's time that changed. I left that office feeling like I was walking on air. For the first time in so long, someone had truly seen me. They hadn't seen a mother, a widow, or an old woman. They had seen a professional. They had seen my work, my dedication, my value. I got home, my mind buzzing. I had to tell someone. I called Michael. It went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. I have some amazing news. Call me. 4 hours later, he replied with a single emoji. I called Emily. She actually answered, but the roar of a crowded restaurant was in the background. Mom, hey, I'm at brunch with the girls. Is it urgent? I got promoted. I'm moving to Chicago for work. Oh, wow, that's great. Super cool. Hey, listen, I gotta go. Mimosas just arrived. We'll talk later, okay? She hung up. I sat on my sofa, the one with the slightly sagging cushion on the left side, and looked around at the walls I had painted myself. The photos of my children as babies, as teenagers, hanging in their cheap frames. Nobody asked where in Chicago. Nobody asked when. Nobody asked if I was scared or excited. Nobody asked if I needed help. And in that moment, I made the decision. I would accept the job, and I wouldn't tell them another single thing. If they didn't care enough to ask, I didn't care enough to tell. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I signed contracts. I put my house on the market. It sold in 3 days for far more than I expected. I started looking at apartments online in Chicago, a city I'd only visited once. I did it all in secret, in the quiet hum of my empty house. Michael showed up one afternoon, 2 days before the movers were scheduled to arrive. I was in the living room, surrounded by boxes. He walked right in. "Hey, Mom, did you reconsider co-signing that loan for Olivia?" I didn't even look up from the box of books I was taping shut. "No, Michael, I can't do it. It's such a great opportunity. We could be set for life in 5 years." I sealed the box with a loud rip of the tape gun. The sound was sharp, final. "I cannot help you with that." He let out an annoyed huff and turned to leave. He didn't see the boxes. He didn't notice the empty bookshelves. He didn't see that his entire childhood home was being packed away. He only saw his own frustrated ambition. The day of the move was gray and drizzly. I'd hired a small local company. 2 young men who handled my old furniture with a surprising gentleness, as if my worn-out things were precious. I made them coffee and gave them a box of donuts. They thanked me with such genuine smiles, it almost made me cry. More warmth from 2 strangers than I'd felt from my own kids in years. I closed the door on my old life without looking back. I got into my car and pointed it north, toward the city skyline I could just barely imagine. 6 hours on the highway. 6 hours of silence. 6 hours to think about the life I was leaving behind, and the one I was, just maybe, about to find. I arrived as dusk was falling over Chicago. The apartment the company's agent had found for me was on the 45th floor of a modern glass tower right on the river. It had floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek hardwood floors, a kitchen with gleaming new appliances, and a small balcony that felt like it was floating in the sky. It was mine. Only mine. That first night, I slept on an air mattress in the middle of the empty living room, wrapped in a brand new blanket. I had no furniture, no curtains, no pictures on the walls, but I had peace. A silence that wasn't lonely. A silence that, for the first time in decades, felt like freedom. The next morning, I started my new job. My new office was a corner suite with a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan. My team greeted me with a respect that felt foreign and wonderful. They called me Miss Susan. They listened when I spoke. They asked for my opinion. David, a senior architect on my team, a kind man in his 50s with a warm smile and salt and pepper hair, helped me get set up. "If you need anything at all, Ms. Susan, please just ask. I know moving to a new city can be a beast." "Thank you, David. I appreciate that," I said. And I meant it, because a complete stranger had taken a moment to see me, to consider my comfort. The weeks turned into months. I furnished my apartment with simple, elegant pieces I loved. A soft gray sofa, a real wood dining table, a comfortable armchair for the balcony, which quickly became my favorite place on earth. Every morning I'd drink my coffee out there, watching the sun rise over the lake, feeling the cool breeze on my face. My family never called. Not once. I sent a group text to Michael and Emily. "Just wanted to let you know I'm all settled in Chicago and everything went well." Michael replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Emily never replied at all. And the strangest part? It didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Maybe I had no expectations left. Or maybe, just maybe, I was finally learning that my worth wasn't measured by how much my children needed me. For the first time in my life, I was existing for me. 3 months went by. 3 months where my life was transformed. The work was challenging and fulfilling. I was leading a major project, a new cultural center for the city. My ideas were valued. My experience was celebrated. One Saturday afternoon, while I was reading on my balcony, the doorbell rang. It was my younger sister, Sophia, holding a weekend bag and grinning from ear to ear. "Surprise," she said, wrapping me in a tight hug. "You didn't think you could escape to a glamorous new life without your little sister coming to inspect the premises, did you?" Sophia had always been my opposite, a freelance photographer, divorced, no kids, who lived a nomadic, adventurous life. We were close, but our lives were so different. She knew about my move because I'd actually called and told her, and unlike my kids, she'd been thrilled for me. She stepped into the apartment and let out a long, low whistle. Susie, holy cow. Wow, look at this view. She went straight to the window, her photographer's eye taking everything in. You have to let me take some pictures. This is magazine-worthy. We spent a glorious weekend together. I showed her my new favorite spots, the little French bakery, the quiet paths along the lakefront, the bustling farmer's market. She took pictures of everything, the food, the architecture, and me. You look different, she told me on Sunday, as we had coffee on the balcony. Happier, lighter. I feel lighter, I admitted. Do Michael and Emily have any idea this is your new life? She asked, her expression turning serious. I shook my head. They haven't asked, Sophia just frowned. She'd seen it all over the years, the casual disrespect, the constant demands, the way I'd slowly faded into the background. On Sunday afternoon, before she left for the airport, Sophia insisted on one last photo. She posed me on the balcony, with the stunning Chicago skyline stretching out behind me. The wind was blowing through my hair. I was holding a coffee mug, and I was genuinely laughing at something she'd said. You're gonna want to remember this moment, she said, snapping the picture. The moment you officially started living for you. That night after I dropped her off, I was making myself a simple pasta dinner when my phone started to buzz. And it didn't stop. Texts, Facebook notifications, missed calls, all from Michael and Emily. My blood ran cold. 3 months of silence and now this avalanche. I opened my messages. Michael, Mom, where are you? Call me. It's urgent. Emily, Mom, I need to talk to you right now. Then I saw it. Sophia had posted the photo from the balcony to her Facebook page. She'd tagged me. There I was, smiling, relaxed, looking out from what was clearly a luxury high-rise. Her caption read, visiting my big sister Susan in her incredible new Chicago penthouse. So proud of you for grabbing life by the horns. You deserve all the happiness in the world. The post had exploded. Friends and distant relatives were commenting, shocked and impressed. And of course, Michael and Emily had seen it. I took a deep breath. I didn't answer their frantic messages. I turned my phone off, finished my pasta, and enjoyed the quiet. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. Dozens more notifications. Now Olivia was texting me too. A pattern was emerging. Michael, Mom, I saw the new apartment. It looks insane. We need to talk. Emily, why didn't you tell us you moved into a penthouse? I'd love to visit sometime. Olivia, Susan, congratulations on the new home. It's stunning. Michael told me all about it. I'd love to chat with you about an idea I have. An idea. Of course. At work, David noticed I was tense. Family trouble? He asked gently after a meeting. You could say that, I said. Surprised by how easily I admitted it. Well, if you ever need an ear, I'm a good listener. That afternoon, I finally replied to my children. A simple group text. I'm fine. Just been busy with work. We can talk soon. They didn't want to wait. Michael called instantly. I let it ring. He called again. And again. On the 4th try, I picked up. Mom, a penthouse? Why didn't you tell us you were loaded? He said, without even a hello. It's the apartment my company arranged for me, Michael. It came with the job, I said. It was a small white lie. The company gave me a generous housing allowance. I chose to use all of it on this place, but he didn't need to know that. Look, Mom, he said, his voice shifting gears. This is a sign. Olivia and I have been looking at houses. We're in a terrible school district. For Noah and Liam, we saw your apartment and, well, you're one person. You don't need all that space. We need you to sell it and give us the money for a down payment. It's for your grandkids. I was speechless. Sell my apartment? The one he thought I owned? Mark, I said, my voice dangerously calm. This apartment is a rental. There was dead silence on the other end of the line. A rental? Yes, but you look so rich in that photo. I thought... You thought what, Michael? I cut in, a new unfamiliar power rising in me. That I suddenly won the lottery and all your financial problems were solved? No, Mom, it's not like that. It's just family helps family. Family? I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Michael, you didn't call me once in 3 months. You didn't know what city I was in. You replied to my life-changing news with a thumbs-up emoji. But now that you see a picture of a nice apartment, now I'm family? Mom, that's not fair. No, Michael, I said, my voice like steel. What's not fair is that I only seem to exist when you want something. The days that followed were a silent war of attrition. Michael called 3, 4, 5 times a day. Emily sent long, rambling texts filled with justifications and passive-aggressive guilt trips. I guess I just don't understand how you can be so cold. Olivia even sent me a link to a blog post titled, "The Devastating Effects of Financial Stress on Young Families." As if I were their problem, and not their own lavish spending. I continued to ignore them. I went to work. I led my team. I lived my life. But they were relentless. They had found my address, probably from some online search or by wheedling it out of a distant relative, and now they wanted to crash my new life with the same old entitlement. One afternoon, David and I were going over blueprints for the new cultural center when my phone buzzed again with Michael's name. I grimaced and silenced it. David noticed. "Pardon me for prying, Miss Susan," he said, his expression kind. "But you've had that look on your face for days. Are you sure you don't want to talk about it?" I hesitated for a moment. Then, without really planning to, I told him everything. The years of being invisible, the move they never noticed, Sophia's photo, the sudden desperate demands for money. The words poured out of me like a river that had finally burst its dam. David listened patiently, without a single interruption. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair thinking for a moment. "Can I be blunt, Susan?" he asked, dropping the formal Ms. for the first time. "Please." "You don't owe them a thing," he said, his voice firm. "Being a mother doesn't make you an ATM. Being family isn't a license for them to use you." "I know," I said, but my voice wavered. "A lifetime of conditioning is hard to unlearn, do you?" he asked gently. "Because it sounds like they still think they can wear you down. And people like that, they'll keep pushing until they hit a solid brick wall." He was right. I was just avoiding, hiding, hoping they'd eventually give up. But Michael and Emily weren't quitters when it came to getting what they wanted. They were just getting started. That night, sitting on my balcony with a blanket wrapped around my legs as the autumn air grew crisp, I made a decision. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to live in this limbo of silent digital warfare. If they wanted a confrontation, they would get one. But it would be on my turf and on my terms. I opened my phone and wrote a single text to the family group chat. I'm inviting you to dinner at my apartment next Saturday at 7 p.m. We will discuss everything you feel we need to discuss. I attached the address. The replies were instantaneous. Of course they were. I was finally giving them what they craved, access. The week leading up to Saturday was strangely peaceful. I wasn't nervous. I was preparing for battle. I had made decisions, big, life-altering decisions that were going to change everything, forever. On Friday afternoon, I left work early and went to see a lawyer. A woman Sophia had recommended, named Ava Chen. She was sharp, impeccably dressed, and had eyes that missed nothing. I sat in her sleek downtown office and laid out the entire situation. "So they see you as a financial resource, not a person," she summarized, nodding slowly. "It's a depressingly common story, Mrs. Miller. I want to protect myself," I said. "And I want to send a clear message." "There are several ways to do that," she said, outlining a few options. I listened carefully, and then I told her exactly what I wanted to do. She raised an eyebrow. "That's a very definitive move, Mrs. Miller. Are you absolutely certain?" "I have never been more certain of anything in my life," I said. Saturday arrived, a brilliant, cloudless day. I spent the morning cleaning my already spotless apartment. I prepared a simple but elegant dinner, salmon with roasted asparagus and a fresh salad. I wasn't trying to impress them. I was reminding myself of my own competence, my own quiet dignity. By 6:30, everything was ready. The table was set with my new simple white plates. The city lights twinkled outside my window, a constant, sparkling reminder that I had built this new life. Me, all by myself. The doorbell rang at precisely 7 o'clock. Such punctuality when there's a perceived inheritance on the line. I opened the door. Michael entered first, followed by Olivia. Then Emily, and to my surprise, her husband William. A man I barely knew because he was always swamped at work whenever there was a family get-together. "Mom," Michael said, giving me a stiff, awkward hug. "This place is even nicer in person." Olivia kissed the air near my cheek. "Susan, you have such fabulous taste." "So modern." Emily was more subdued. "Hi, Mom. Thanks for having us." They moved into the living room like a scouting party, their eyes darting everywhere. They commented on the view, the height of the ceilings, the quality of the floor. It was all a thinly veiled appraisal of my net worth. We sat down for dinner. The conversation was stilted, awkward. They talked about the traffic, about a new show on Netflix, about anything and everything except why they were really there. I ate in silence, watching them. I saw the little glances between Michael and Olivia, the way Emily kept looking at her husband for support. They were waiting for the right moment to launch their coordinated attack. It was Michael. "Of course, who broke the ice?" "Mom, you look amazing. Really. This move has been so good for you," he started, laying the groundwork. "Thank you, Michael." "So," he continued, "we wanted to talk to you about our conversation from a few months ago. About our housing situation." Olivia jumped in, her voice smooth as silk. "Susan, we've done all the research. The school district we're in now is just not acceptable for Noah and Liam. We found a perfect house in a top-rated district, but the down payment is just out of reach. We thought with your new position and all this," she gestured vaguely around the apartment, "maybe you could see your way to helping us. It's an investment in your grandchildren's future." Of course, I thought. The grandchildren. The ultimate guilt trip. Emily cleared her throat. "And Mom, for us? Those student loans are just crushing. We can't save, we can't get ahead. It feels like we're drowning. Just a little help would change everything for our family." They all looked at me. 4 pairs of expectant eyes. It was like a scene that had played out 100 times before, in 100 different ways. Me, the provider. Them, the needy. I carefully placed my fork on my plate. I wiped my lips with my napkin. I took a slow, deep breath, feeling the solid ground of my decision beneath me. "I want to ask you all a question," I said. My voice didn't shake. It was as calm and steady as the lake outside my window. "In the 3 months after I moved, did any of you even once call me just to ask if I was happy?" Silence. A thick, uncomfortable silence. Did anyone ask if the move was hard? If I was lonely in a new city? If I missed my old home? "Mom, we've been so busy," Michael mumbled, looking down at his plate. "I was busy too, Michael," I said, my voice rising slightly. "For 30 years, I was busy raising you. It was never an excuse for me to forget you existed." Emily's eyes welled up. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I pressed on. "You didn't notice I left town. You didn't notice I sold my house. You didn't notice I had a new life until Sophia posted one single photograph. One picture that made you think I had money. Don't tell me that's not true. No one could meet my gaze." Olivia tried to smooth things over. "Susan, I think we're all a bit emotional. Families support each other. That's all we're saying." "You are right, Olivia," I agreed. "Families do support each other, through good times and bad, not just when an opportunity to ask for money presents itself." I stood up from the table. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked down at the glittering city below. They watched me, their dinner forgotten. "This apartment," I said, turning back to face them. "This place that impresses you all so much. The place that made you remember I exist. It's a rental. It's not mine. I can't sell it. I can't take out a loan against it. It's not a secret treasure chest." Michael went pale. "But your salary, the promotion—" "My salary is mine, Michael," I said firmly. "It's for my future, for my retirement, for the life I have left to live. But we're your family," Emily cried, her voice cracking. "Don't you want to see us happy?" I looked at my daughter, a flicker of the old maternal pain stirring in my chest. "Of course I want you to be happy, Emily. But I've realized something. Your happiness cannot and will not be built on the foundation of my eternal sacrifice. Not anymore." "You're being selfish," Michael spat, and the word hung in the air like a poisoned dart. "Selfish," I repeated, a small, humorless smile touching my lips. "That's a very interesting choice of words. Coming from you." The atmosphere in the room was now thick with resentment. Olivia was staring at her half-eaten salmon. Emily was openly crying. William, her husband, just looked like he wanted to be beamed up by aliens. I said calmly, it's time for you to go. Dinner is over. They stood up slowly, mechanically. Emily grabbed her purse. Michael shot me a look of pure, undiluted rage. I walked them to the door. Before he left, Michael turned. You're going to regret this, Mom. You're going to die old and alone. Maybe, I said, my voice soft but unyielding. But at least I'll die in peace. And at least it will be my decision. I closed the door behind them. The click of the lock sounded like the final word in a very long book. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to their footsteps fade down the hallway, the ding of the elevator, and then nothing. Just the gentle hum of the dishwasher and the wind whistling softly around the 45th floor. I walked back to the dining table. The half-eaten plates, the wine glasses, the discarded napkins. It looked like the aftermath of a shipwreck. I started to clear the table, my hands moving automatically while my mind replayed the scene. I had said no. I had said it clearly, unapologetically, and without leaving any room for negotiation. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt hollowed out, exhausted, but not guilty. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on the balcony, wrapped in my favorite blanket, and watched the city that never slept. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael. Then Emily. I didn't read them. I just watched the river, a dark ribbon flowing endlessly toward the lake. On Sunday, I woke up feeling a strange lightness. I made coffee and finally read the messages. Michael, I can't believe you would be so cruel to your own family. You've become a bitter old woman. Emily, fine, Mom. We get the message. Don't worry about us anymore. That last part was dripping with manufactured pity, a final, desperate attempt to make me feel bad. I replied to the group chat with one last message. I will always love you both, but I can no longer be your solution. I hope one day you understand. Michael's reply was instant. This is a mistake, Mom. The biggest mistake of your life. I blocked their numbers. Not out of anger, but out of a deep, primal need for self-preservation. I needed silence to heal. On Monday, I walked into the office feeling like I'd aged 10 years and shed 100 pounds all at once. David took one look at me and knew. How did it go? He asked quietly when we were alone. It was necessary, I said. Did you give them their brick wall? I think I gave them a whole fortress, I said, a small smile playing on my lips. He nodded, a look of deep respect in his eyes. Good for you, Susan. That takes a kind of courage most people don't have. I don't feel courageous. I just feel tired. Sometimes, he said, courage is just being too tired to keep giving in. Those words echoed in my mind all day. That's what it was. I was just too tired to be their invisible mother anymore. The days turned into a quiet, peaceful week. I expected more attacks, but there was only silence. It was unnerving at first, but then it became blissful. Sophia called on Friday. So, I heard there was a family summit, she said, her voice laced with concern. Mark unfriended me on Facebook, so I assume it didn't go well. I told them no, I said simply. To everything. She let out a short, sharp laugh. Hallelujah. It's about damn time, Susie. Are you okay? I am, I said, surprised to find it was true. Better than okay. Good. Don't you dare let them make you feel guilty. You've earned this. Her words were another small stone in the foundation of my new resolve. That Friday, David invited me to an architectural walking tour of the city's historic district. It had been years since I'd done something just for the fun of it. I'd love to, I said, without a moment's hesitation. We spent Saturday walking through the city I was beginning to love. Talking about buildings and history and design, we didn't talk about family. We didn't talk about problems. We just enjoyed the day. He was becoming a real friend. Someone I could talk to who wanted nothing from me but my company. That evening, back in my quiet apartment, I was looking through the mail when I saw a thick, official-looking envelope. It was from a law firm I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. Had Michael and Emily hired a lawyer? Were they going to try to sue me? My hands trembled as I opened it. The letter inside was not what I expected. It was from an estate lawyer in my old hometown. It began. Dear Mrs. Miller, it is with a heavy heart that I must inform you of the passing of your neighbor, Mr. William Harrison. Old Mr. Harrison from next door. A quiet, kind widower who I used to chat with over the fence. I felt a pang of sadness, but it was the next sentence that made me sit down. Mr. Harrison has named you the sole beneficiary of his estate. I read it again and again. It didn't make sense. We were friendly neighbors, not close friends. The letter continued. The estate includes his fully paid-off house and a portfolio of investments currently valued at approximately $1.2 million. I dropped the letter. $1.2 million. It was a number so large, so absurd, it felt like a typo. I scrolled down, my eyes scanning the page for an explanation, and then I found it. Tucked at the end of the formal legal language was a personal note from Mr. Harrison, which he had instructed the lawyer to include. Dear Susan, it read, in a shaky but clear hand. If you are reading this, then I am gone. I hope it was peaceful. Forgive an old man for his forwardness, but over the last few years I couldn't help but notice things. I saw how your children treated you. I heard the way they spoke to you when they thought no one was listening. I saw you give and give and give and get nothing but demands in return. It reminded me of my own late wife and how she ran herself into the ground for others. A woman with a good heart deserves a peaceful life, Susan. You deserve to be seen. I have no children of my own, and my relatives are strangers to me. I want you to have this. Don't give a cent of it to those ungrateful kids. Use it to be happy. Buy a boat. Travel the world. Live the life you were always meant to have. Consider it a gift from one invisible person to another. Your friend William. Tears streamed down my face. Tears of shock, of grief for a kind neighbor, and of a strange, overwhelming gratitude. A man I barely knew had seen me more clearly than my own children. A near stranger had valued my peace and happiness more than the people I had dedicated my life to. I sat there, in the silent, beautiful apartment I had been so proud of, with a letter in my hand that changed everything all over again. My life, which had just begun to feel simple and manageable, had just become impossibly, terrifyingly complicated. And I had $1 million secret that I knew, with absolute certainty, my children could never, ever find out about. The letter trembled in my hand. $1.2 million. And a house. It was a sum so vast, so disconnected from my reality that my brain couldn't process it. I read Mr. Harrison's handwritten note again, the words blurring through my tears. A woman with a good heart deserves a peaceful life. Consider it a gift from one invisible person to another. He had seen me. A quiet neighbor, peering over the fence while tending his roses, had seen the truth of my life more clearly than the children I had raised. He had seen my slow erasure, and in his final act, he had decided to write me back into existence with a tidal wave of generosity. My first call was to my lawyer, Ava Chen. Is this real? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It's as real as it gets, Mrs. Miller, she confirmed, her tone professional but kind. The estate is in probate, but you are the confirmed sole beneficiary. It's ironclad. My next call was to Sophia. You are not going to believe this, I said. And I told her everything. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a whoop of joy so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Susie! Oh my God! A secret millionaire. That sweet old man. This is incredible! I don't know what to do, Sophia. It's too much. Yes, you do know what to do, she said, her voice suddenly serious. You do exactly what he said. You live, you be happy, and you do not, under any circumstances, let Michael or Emily get a single whiff of this. They would descend on you like vultures. This is your secret. Your gift. She was right. This wasn't their money. This was a legacy of kindness from one lonely soul to another. It was sacred. The weight of the secret was immense. I needed to share it with someone here, in my new life. The next time David and I had dinner, I took a deep breath. David, I have something to tell you, I said, my heart pounding, and I need you to just listen. I told him the whole story of Mr. Harrison, of the letter, of the staggering inheritance. He listened without a word, his eyes fixed on mine. When I finished, he didn't ask about the money. He didn't congratulate me. He just reached across the table and gently squeezed my hand. What a beautiful, heartbreaking, wonderful story, he said softly. That man gave you more than money, Susan. He gave you validation. Tears welled in my eyes. He did. So what are you going to do? He asked. I'm going to honor him, I said, a new idea taking root in my mind. I'm going to use his gift to make sure other invisible people get seen. The following weeks were a flurry of secret activity. I met with Ava Chen and a team of financial advisors. We established a private charitable foundation. We called it the Harrison Project. Its mission was simple: to provide financial aid and legal support to elderly individuals who were victims of financial exploitation by their own families. It was the perfect way to honor Mr. Harrison's memory, turning his quiet act of rebellion into a powerful force for good. Life fell into a beautiful, peaceful rhythm. I was thriving at work. My friendship with David was deepening into something warm and wonderful. The silence from my children continued, and I had come to see it not as an absence, but as a presence, the presence of peace. Then, one Tuesday, the other shoe dropped. Sophia called, her voice tight with anger. "Susie, I just got off the phone with our cousin Sarah," she said. "You're not going to like this. Michael has been asking her husband, who's a lawyer, about filial responsibility laws. He's been talking about contesting a will in advance and getting a competency evaluation for you." My blood ran cold. Competency evaluation? He was going to try to have me declared mentally unfit for cutting him off? "He thinks he can legally force you to support him," Sophia fumed. "He's telling people that you've been acting erratically since the move and that you're not in your right mind. The nerve of that kid." I sank into my chair, the phone pressed to my ear. This was his new angle. Not guilt, not manipulation, but a legal threat. A cruel attempt to weaponize the system against me, but this time I wasn't scared. I was furious, and I was prepared. "Thank you for telling me, Soph. I have to go." I immediately called Ava Chen. He wouldn't have a legal leg to stand on, Ava reassured me after I explained the situation. Those laws are archaic and rarely enforceable, especially when you are financially independent. It's a scare tactic, but we can use it. What do you mean? "Let him make his move," she said, a hint of steel in her voice. "Let him think he has you cornered. Then we schedule a meeting, here in my office. Let's end this, once and for all." 2 days later, I received a formal-looking email from a lawyer I'd never heard of, requesting a mediation meeting on behalf of his client, Mr. Michael Miller. To discuss my familial financial obligations, I replied with 2 words: name the time. The meeting was set for the following Friday at Ava's office. This time I didn't cook. I didn't prepare. I just put on my best suit, a sharp navy blue outfit that made me feel powerful, and walked into that conference room with my head held high. Michael and Emily were already there, sitting on one side of a large mahogany table. Michael looked smug, confident. Emily just looked miserable, like she had been dragged there against her will. Their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, nodded at me curtly. I sat opposite them, with Ava by my side. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Miller," their lawyer began. "We're here to discuss a path forward. My client, Michael, is deeply concerned about your well-being and your recent decisions. He feels you have shirked your moral and, potentially, legal duty to your family." I let him talk. He went on about parental responsibility, about the sacrifices children make, about the expectation of family support. It was a masterclass in entitled nonsense. When he finally finished, Michael leaned forward. "Mom, this doesn't have to be ugly," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Just agree to a monthly stipend for me and Emily, a trust fund from your assets. We can put all this behind us. It's the right thing to do." I looked at him. My son. A man so blinded by his own greed, he was willing to publicly humiliate his own mother to get what he wanted. I didn't say a word. I just looked at Ava. Ava smiled, a thin, dangerous smile. "Mr. Miller," she began, her voice crisp and clear, "your legal argument has absolutely no merit. Your mother has no obligation to provide you with a stipend, and any attempt to question her competency would be met with a swift and frankly embarrassing countersuit for harassment." Michael's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "However," Ava continued, opening a file in front of her, "it's interesting that you bring up assets, because we do have a new financial development to discuss." Michael's eyes lit up. He thought he'd won. Your mother was recently the sole beneficiary of an estate, Ava said, valued at approximately $1.2 million plus property. The color drained from Michael's face. Emily gasped. They stared at me, their expressions a mixture of shock, awe, and pure, frantic greed. But, Ava said, letting the word hang in the air, before you get any ideas, you should know this. She slid a document across the table. It was the charter for the Harrison Project. Your mother, in an act of incredible foresight and generosity, has irrevocably transferred the entirety of that inheritance into a charitable foundation. It is legally firewalled, untouchable. Its mission, she said, looking Michael directly in the eye, is to provide aid to elderly people who are being financially exploited by their families. In a way, Michael, your actions directly inspired its creation. So thank you, it was a checkmate. A perfect, beautiful, devastating checkmate. Michael stared at the paper, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. He had flown too close to the sun, and the truth had just melted his wings. He hadn't just lost. He had become the very villain his mother's new fortune was dedicated to fighting. The humiliation was absolute. Emily burst into tears. But this time they were different. I told you this was wrong, Michael. She sobbed, turning on him. I told you to stop, but you wouldn't listen. You never listen. She stood up and looked at me, her face a mess of tears and regret. I'm so sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I'm done. I'm done with all of this. She grabbed her purse and walked out of the room, leaving Michael sitting there, utterly defeated. He just stared at me, his smugness shattered, replaced by a hollow, vacant look. For the first time, he looked small. I think we're finished here, Ava said, closing her file. I stood up, and for the first time, I felt a pang of pity for him. But it was overshadowed by a profound sense of peace. The war was finally over,